Trade rumors are heating up around Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and the LA Rams, and it sounds like Sean McVay could be trying to blow it up and hit the reset button. And if they are, the New York Giants, led by Schoen, should pick up the phone and make a deal happen for Matthew Stafford to be a New York Giant. We're going to break down all these new reports and rumors on today's show. But first, make sure you are subscribed to New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. We put out free, informative, entertaining, passion-driven content on your New York Football Giants every single day. And we're in a subscriber battle with Steelers Talk, hosted by my guy Jack Sperry here at Chat Sports. We got the Steelers, Monday Night Football. Let's get the mindset right. Let's beat them in the sub battle. Hit that sub button, and let's go. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. I appreciate everybody for stopping by, clicking on today's video. We really appreciate it. We talked about a Matthew Stafford trade last week, and look, I said at the time that I did think it could happen because there were multiple reporters, Jeremy Fowler, as well as Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, who have pointed out that the Rams and Stafford have somewhat restructured that contract to make it easier to move off of him, maybe now or in the future. And it sounds like now may be the time that a Stafford trade could be coming. Jack Settleman, who I would say is a sports media personality, tweeted this out. Not really in the news-breaking game, but tweeted sources. The Vikings and Rams are in serious trade talks for Matthew Stafford. Minnesota made a push to trade for Stafford this offseason, but are now revisiting this idea that he can be the piece to help them win a Super Bowl this season. You might be asking, like me, who the hell is Jack Settleman? One, he's a friend of the show. He's retweeted a couple of my Knicks stuff before. He's a Knicks fan, I believe. And he's also the CEO and founder of Snapback Sports on Snapchat. He's got over 57,000 subscribers. And this is a guy that I would say is not someone that's just going to make up a story. This is someone that people believe in. And even Des Bryant quote tweeted someone who chirped at him and said, "Don't believe just anyone with a check mark." And then Des Bryant quote tweeted that said, "Facts, but Jack is credible." And look, I'm not saying that he is speaking the absolute truth just because he said it is going to happen. What I am saying is where there is smoke, there is fire. We talked about it last week for a reason. Now we're hearing that he may be a Minnesota Viking, and we're hearing that a deal could be coming. Look, if Stafford is on the block, you got to go do it. You have a hole at the franchise quarterback position, and whether you want to address it in the draft, free agency, or a trade, you do whatever it takes to add a guy like that. And I understand Stafford is 36 years old, but I still think that he can play at a top level in this league for the next 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. And it's not just Matthew Stafford who the Rams are potentially trying to move off of. Diana Rossini, NFL insider for a long time, says the Rams have called multiple teams about trading former Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp. The Rams have indicated a willingness to take on some of the 2024 salary and are seeking a second-round pick. So you're taking calls and you're making calls on Cooper Kupp. And now there is smoke out in the streets that you are actually in talks with the Minnesota Vikings on a trade that would send Stafford out. Are the Rams blowing it up? If they are, Schoen, call the number out in LA and get it done. Because trading for Matthew Stafford would not just be a one-year thing for the New York Giants. You don't trade for Stafford to try to save the 2024-2025 season. You trade for Stafford to win the NFC East in 2025, 2026, 2027, and potentially beyond. And actually, when you talk about how feasible a trade is when it comes to the contract, it's pretty dang easy. His contract is very trade-friendly. I don't think a trade will happen now. I want to make that clear. I think it's an off-season move for the Giants, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you did pull the trigger now, you would be paying a prorated rate of his base salary, which is $23.5 million, a.k.a. $1.3 million per game. There's 10 games left for the Giants. They would own $13 million this season if they traded for him before Sunday or Thursday, as they do play this Thursday. But you would only be on the books for, in 2025, $31 million, and in 2026, $31 million. And if you can add a franchise quarterback for $62 million over 2 seasons, That's a heck of a move. This makes way more sense for the Giants in the offseason. You want to let this season continue to roll out, see if you maybe have a long-term backup in Drew Lock. Maybe you turn to Tommy DeVito at some point. And you're not going to make the playoffs even if you do trade for Stafford. If Andrew Thomas was still there, I would do the trade now. But if the Rams are ready to deal him now, and your only opportunity to add Matthew Stafford for 25, 26, and 27 is by pulling the trigger now before they trade him to the Minnesota Vikings, I would do it. Because, again, I believe he's still the top quarterback in the NFC and a top 10 quarterback and can play like the best quarterback in the world on any given day. I'm unsure what a trade would look like. I'm not sure what the value for a 36-year-old Matthew Stafford would be. I polled the Chat Sports office. We got about 20 guys in there that cover the NFL. Some people said a first-round pick. Some people said a second-round pick. Some people said a third-round pick. So we're going to go right in the middle. A second-round pick. Would you make this trade? If you were Joe Schoen, the general manager of the New York Football Giants, would you send a second-round pick to L.A. to add Matt Stafford? Type A for accept, type D for decline. Let me know your thoughts. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So when you get hit with that YouTube ad break, scroll on down and let me know, would you make this trade? For me, this is an easy A. This is an accept. If you can add a franchise quarterback for the next 3, 4, maybe even years beyond that for a second-round pick, you do so. And I just want to make this clear. Just because you make this trade for Matthew Stafford does not take you out of the business of drafting a quarterback in round 1 of the 2025 NFL draft if you identify and fall in love with a prospect. We'll talk about that in a second, but first, if you're looking to get a New York Giants jersey, get a Brian Burns jersey. He's playing through injury, he's playing his tail off, and he's playing with New York Giants pride. Chatsports.com/Burns. This link will be clickable in the comments and description of today's show. Stafford, 36 years old. I get it. Maybe he's a little bit too old for some people. I still believe that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Completing 66.7% of his passes this year, 1,392 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But what about the 3 years prior to that? You look at what Stafford did. This is a guy that threw for 24 touchdowns in 2023 to just 11 interceptions. 2021, he threw 41 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. And when you talk about some advanced analytics here, Matthew Stafford in 2023, according to Pro Football Focus, had 33 big-time throws. Daniel Jones has 22 big-time throws in the last 4 seasons. He has 66 in his career. On throws of 20-plus air yards from last season, Matthew Stafford completed 28 out of 54 attempts. That means he's completing 52% of his passes that travel 20 yards in the air. Daniel Jones is like 5 of 25 on those throws this season. Matthew Stafford is almost a perfect quarterback for a Brian Daboll offense. He can throw the ball to every pocket on the football field. He can hit every blade of grass. He can come off his first read, reset the pocket, go to read 3, work to read 4, and even sometimes get to read 5. This is a guy that can throw the ball into any window, any hole on the field, and he is an explosive quarterback. Again, he threw the ball 54 times last year with 20-plus air yards. He completed 28 of them. That was the best in the National Football League with a quarterback with that number of attempts. Daboll wants to throw the ball downfield. Daboll wants to run an explosive offense. And if you could have Malik Neighbors and you add another receiver this offseason, you pair him with Stafford with this offensive line when Andrew Thomas comes back, with Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary, I think that's a playoff offense. Is it possible? Yes, it is absolutely possible. I think the Rams are looking in themselves in the mirror, and they're asking themselves, who do we want to be the next 3 years? And I don't think the answer is Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They need to hit the reset button. They know this room and this collective group of players that they have is not going to win a Super Bowl. So they may trade him. I do think that's possible. Is it likely right now for the New York Giants? Maybe not all that much. Do I think Joe Schoen would be a little bit more motivated if Andrew Thomas was healthy? Absolutely. But you don't want to pass up on the deal now and say, I want to make it in the offseason and let him be traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Could it happen in the offseason? Absolutely. I think that's the most likely time it could happen. Jeremy Fowler has noted, Pro Football Talk has noted, that they have restructured his contract each of the last 2 seasons to make him more tradable or make it more friendly to move off him via cutting him once the season ends. Look, trading for Stafford puts you in a spot where you can be more patient with drafting a quarterback. The last thing this regime needs to do is feel rushed to make a move and to select a quarterback that maybe they aren't 100% in love with. Maybe a guy that they don't feel like is 100% a home run and going to be a franchise guy. So you can have Stafford in your back pocket, and if you don't fall in love with a draft prospect this cycle, you don't have to reach to go get him. You can go get him in 2026. You can go get Arch Manning if you want him. Also, if you trade for Stafford and you fall in love with a QB in this draft cycle, you can still go make the pick. Let's say the Giants end up picking 8th in the NFL draft this year, and they gave up a second-round pick tomorrow for Matthew Stafford. And whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Cam Ward, whether it's Garrett Nussmeier, whether whoever it is, if that guy is someone you have identified as a pro and a franchise elevator, someone that you think you can build around and someone you can elevate, you can still draft that player and you can have them watch for maybe a year under Matthew Stafford. You don't have to rush them to go play football. How many times have we seen quarterbacks rushed onto the field and their career is over before it even started? And how many times have we seen quarterbacks sit for a year, maybe 2, and then they're ready to play when they're ready to play, and they come out and show you that they're a legit player and they're going to elevate a franchise? I could think of a couple of different players. I see it on both sides. I really do. But at the end of the day, if I was Joe Schoen, I would make the move. I would go make a move for Matthew Stafford. You need a quarterback, and I still think he's one of the best in the biz. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up over there, and let's go Big Blue.